Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of the Ghanaian assistant and the K-pop idol. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. Now let's dive in. It's been 3 months since Jane had been working for Joo Seokjin. That morning, as usual, Jane was at her desk, going through her tasks before heading to the company, when her phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. Frowning, she hesitated before answering. "Hello," she said cautiously. "Ms. Jane? This is Director Kong from the choreography department," a worried voice replied. "Seokjin hasn't shown up, and no one can reach him. I thought you might know something." Jane glanced at her planner. Seokjin never missed rehearsals, no matter how demanding. His absence was unusual. "I haven't heard from him," she replied, concern creeping into her voice. "I'll check on him and get back to you." After hanging up, Jane quickly changed into a casual yet professional outfit, grabbed her bag, and headed out. She knew where Seokjin lived. His exclusive high-rise was the envy of fans and staff alike. But she never imagined visiting it under these circumstances. At the building's entrance, Jane explained the situation to the security guard, who, after several phone calls, allowed her upstairs. Standing outside his penthouse door, she hesitated before knocking firmly. No response. She knocked again, louder this time, and was about to give up when the door creaked open. Seokjin stood there, disheveled and pale, his usually flawless hair tousled. An oversized hoodie and sweatpants replaced his usual polished look. "What are you doing here?" he asked hoarsely. "You weren't answering your phone, and Director Kong was worried," Jane explained, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "What's going on?" Seokjin shuffled to the couch and collapsed onto it, waving a dismissive hand. "It's just a cold. I'll be fine." Jane frowned, unconvinced. His apartment, though impeccably clean, felt cold and impersonal, its sleek decor more showroom than home. "You don't look fine," she said firmly. "Have you eaten?" He avoided her gaze, his silence telling her everything she needed to know. Rolling up her sleeves, Jane headed to the kitchen. "What are you doing?" he called after her, his voice tinged with annoyance. "Making you something to eat," she replied, scanning the cabinets and fridge. The kitchen was well stocked, though it was clear Seokjin rarely used it. In no time, she prepared a simple porridge and brought it to him. Seokjin eyed the bowl skeptically. "I don't need a babysitter," he muttered but took the bowl anyway. "Consider it part of my job," Jane said, sitting across from him. "You can't perform if you're not taking care of yourself." Seokjin ate in silence, his usual sharp remarks noticeably absent. When he finished, he leaned back, exhaustion evident in his posture. "Why are you still here?" he asked softly. "Because someone has to make sure you're okay," Jane replied. "You've been overworking yourself." He opened his eyes slightly, his expression briefly softening. "I don't need your pity." "It's not pity," Jane said, her tone gentle but firm. "It's called basic human decency." As the day went on, Jane coordinated with the choreography department, rescheduling Seokjin's commitments. During a brief break, her phone buzzed with a call from Taemin. "You're at Seokjin's place?" Taemin teased. "How's that going?" "Quieter than expected," Jane replied, glancing at Seokjin, who was now dozing on the couch. "He's sick, so he's not himself. Enjoy the peace while it lasts," Taemin joked before hanging up. By evening, Seokjin stirred from his nap as the aroma of grilled chicken filled the apartment. He shuffled into the kitchen, watching Jane plate the food. "You don't have to keep doing this," he said, his voice softer now. "I know," Jane replied. "But you should eat something decent before I leave." He sat at the dining table, taking a tentative bite. His expression shifted slightly, though he tried to mask it. "It's fine," Jane chuckled. "High praise coming from you." Before leaving, Jane tidied up the kitchen and grabbed her bag. "Get some rest," she said as she headed for the door. Leaning against the wall, Seokjin's usual sharp demeanor was absent. "Thanks for today." Jane smiled. "Take care, Seokjin." That night, she sent him a quick text after returning home. Jane sent a quick text before bed. "I hope you're feeling better. Don't forget to rest. Good night." To her surprise, Seokjin replied almost immediately. "Thanks for everything today. Dinner wasn't terrible." Smirking at his grudging acknowledgement, she typed back, "Glad you survived it." "Good night, Seokjin." His response came swiftly, "Good night." As Jane set her phone down, a soft smile curved her lips. Despite everything, Joo Seokjin wasn't as complicated as he seemed. It had been 10 months since Jane became Seokjin's assistant. Though he had softened toward her after she cared for him during his illness, he still kept his vulnerabilities well guarded. However, their dynamic shifted drastically when a scandal erupted online. A desperate fan seeking attention fabricated a story accusing Seokjin of mistreating his staff and being verbally abusive. The post went viral, complete with fake screenshots and fabricated evidence. Seokjin's name trended for all the wrong reasons as the media sensationalized the drama, twisting the narrative further. Despite his composed exterior, Jane noticed how the scandal affected him. His sharp remarks faded into a heavy silence, and he spent hours alone in his office, avoiding everyone. One evening, Jane brought him tea and hesitated before speaking. "Seokjin, I know this is hard, but you don't have to go through it alone." He looked up, his frustration evident in his clouded eyes. "How can I not? No matter what I say, people will believe what they want. It's like the truth doesn't matter." Jane sat beside him, her voice steady. "The people who know you, your team, your friends, me, we all know who you really are. That fan wanted attention, and they don't deserve to win. Don't let them take your peace." Her words seemed to break through his defenses. For the first time since the scandal began, Seokjin allowed himself to lean on someone. When the company held a press conference to address the accusations, Jane stood by Seokjin's side. As reporters fired questions, Jane unexpectedly stepped forward to speak. "Seokjin is one of the most hard-working and respectful individuals I've ever worked with," she declared confidently. "The accusations are baseless, and the truth will come to light." Her unwavering support became the highlight of the press conference. Many praised her bravery, and public sentiment began to shift, with critics questioning the credibility of the fans' claims. As the scandal slowly died down, Jane remained a constant source of support for Seokjin. She checked in on him, brought him meals, and left small notes of encouragement on his desk. One night, after Jane visited him at home, Seokjin stopped her at the door. "Jane," he called softly. She turned, surprised by the vulnerability in his voice. "I don't know how to thank you for everything you've done for me," he said. "You've been my anchor through all of this." Jane smiled. "That's what friends do." But Seokjin shook his head. "You're more than a friend to me." Her breath caught as he continued. "You're the first person who's genuinely cared for me since my parents passed. I didn't realize how much I needed someone like you until now. Jane, I've fallen for you." Before she could respond, he closed the distance between them, pressing a soft, hesitant kiss to her lips. When he pulled back, his expression was nervous. "I don't need an answer right now. Just think about it." For days, Jane couldn't stop thinking about his confession. She replayed his words over and over, realizing that her own feelings for him had deepened. When she returned to his home, Seokjin looked at her expectantly. "Did you think about what I said?" Jane stepped closer, her heart pounding. "Yes. And I realized something too." Seokjin held his breath. "I've fallen for you," she admitted. Relief washed over his face. Without hesitation, he pulled her into his arms, kissing her again, this time with certainty and passion. The day after their confession, Jane arrived at Seokjin's house with groceries in hand. "What's all this?" he asked, amused. "I figured we could cook together," she replied with a grin. Seokjin chuckled. "Fair warning, I'm terrible in the kitchen." "Good thing I'm here to teach you," Jane teased. They spent the evening chopping vegetables and laughing as Seokjin fumbled with the stove. When they finally sat down to eat, Seokjin looked at her with a soft smile. "This is the happiest I've been in years." One weekend, after a late-night movie marathon, Jane woke to find Seokjin still asleep on the couch, his hair mussed and his expression peaceful. Smiling, she brewed coffee and placed a cup beside him. When he stirred awake, she teased, "Good morning, sleeping beauty." He groaned but smiled back. "You're too chipper this early." "Well, someone has to make sure you start your day right," she replied, handing him the cup. Seokjin took a sip and sighed contentedly. "I could get used to this." When another minor controversy arose, Jane was once again his fiercest defender. During a meeting with his management team, they suggested he avoid public appearances until the issue blew over. Seokjin shouldn't have to hide, Jane argued. He's done nothing wrong, and avoiding the public will only make him look guilty. Seokjin watched her with admiration, his heart swelling with pride and love. After the meeting, he took her hand and said, "I don't deserve you." Jane smiled warmly. "Yes, you do." And so their love grew stronger with each passing day. They cherished stolen moments of peace amidst Seokjin's busy life. But dating a K-pop idol couldn't stay hidden forever. Rumors began to swirl, and it was only a matter of time before their secret was revealed. Thanks for watching this episode. Don't forget to leave a comment and share your thoughts. See you in the final episode.